I want to bite on this point for a second.
Okay.
Because I think it's really, really important that you guys understand that creating content specific and unique to the platform is really, really important.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's important, and it took us a while to learn this, but the reason why it's important is because if you're generating content correctly, whether it's an ad, whether it's a entertainment or persuasion or education or all the 4 devices, regardless, you're trying to bring them value, which means it's got to be about them, not you. It's like Where's Waldo? But it's Where's the Roboboat?
I was disappointed. I saw a Where's Waldo thing. I was at like a doctor's office or something like a month or 2 ago, and it was so easy. Like I was
disappointed.
I was like, I remember this being a lot harder as a kid. I mean, I don't know, man.
I don't know. The Big Bang Theory had it on there as a major event.
Some of them can be hard.
Maybe they have like different levels. So it's like puzzles.
One of the characters was yelling at the other, why couldn't he find it? He was like, because it's not easy to find. Otherwise, it'd be called There's Waldo. Are we ready?
We are ready.
Are we rolling?
Everything's rolling.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the ServiceMonster podcast. I'm your host, Joe Kowalski, and today we have a very special show. We're going to start here with Adam and go over our housekeeping chores. And then instead of doing a feature focus, we're going to focus on some of the things we do here at ServiceMonster. So I'm inviting Michael, our marketing coordinator, on, and we will chat about some of the things that we've learned and some of the things that we've learned through you guys watching you do successful marketing. But again, before we get to all of that, let's do some housekeeping. Adam, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, so first off, hope everyone had a great week. It's always great to be back, but we'll jump right into the recent release on Wednesday. 6.3.4 came out. There's a couple of features in here that we'll talk about. Marketplace revamp just made it a little bit cleaner, easier to find the integrations that you need to find.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing, too. We dropped everybody that's not directly integrated. So all of the nice things that we've done for the last 2 years, like, and we still love you, Lisa, but, you know, Lisa Wagner and Interlink and all of those people that we've just had sitting there kind of giving ServiceMonster's tip of the hat, saying these are reputable, solid companies. They're backed by reputable, solid people. Sorry, but we took all those guys out. So now if you don't have a direct link with ServiceMonster, you're not in the marketplace. And if you're not in the marketplace and want a direct link with ServiceMonster, well, there's a link for that too. And so on the bottom of that page with the cleanup, you'll be able to suggest people that you think would be good integrations for us. There's a number of different ways we can approach it. So they can integrate using our amazing API. Our Zapier library is constantly growing, so they can put themselves in Zapier. We can work together to make that happen. Or there might be a case for direct integration, like what we have with SendGym. QuickBooks is a good example, right? Where you're doing things in the product to cause things to happen or data be moved into another system. So if you think that we're missing somebody, go ahead and throw them in. They do go through an approval process. We have a committee that says, yeah, no, this is like the 20th, we'll get your reviews connection. I mean, and we've got some good ones, Responsibid, right? We listen to the audience, our clients, and the industry in general for those few companies that actually shine. Right, Ryan Kittering is another example where we say, yeah, because ServiceMonster has we've worked really hard to make our brand reputable,
right? And
people, I think, really look at us as authority in a lot of ways. And so when we give somebody a attaboy, it's a big deal. And we're certainly horribly silent about others within the industry.
Yes.
So, anyways, nothing personal on the companies that had been removed that were in there before. Consider it just a little, we gave you a nice ride for a couple of years. Now it's time to take you out. If you're not directly doing integration or pushing and pulling data, then you don't belong there. And so the whole cleanup was kind of centered around that fact.
Yeah, it was hard to find some of the integrations. Like if you're looking for Broadly or something down in there and you're sorting through and there's this bunch. Yeah, I just wanted to make it easier for the user.
And then they had searches and categorizations, but now it's just even easier.
Yep. Another big one that really was kind of a small touch point, but like we talked about in the meeting, it's actually a pretty big deal, is that line item description, expanding that. So you can have a super detailed description, and if it went past a certain point when you were looking at it, you can only see certain sections at a time. So now you can just expand that window and see everything you have in there.
Expand what window, Adam?
The window that is in the sidecar.
Ah.
That side panel.
Does it stay that way? Now you're going to say no, and it's going to ruin the whole feature.
I believe it does. Like
you just lied.
You just expand it,
right?
I was playing with it yesterday, but I'm freaking out now. You put me on the spot. No, I was playing with it yesterday, and when you expand it, like the whole window itself stays in that, and you can shrink it.
Right. I mean, it's not the most line items fit, right? So it's not the most horrible thing if we don't have it to be sticky. Although we should probably throw that in there as a feature. So, and I'm guessing that it's not just because I know how and now he's looking. He's going to go punch it in right now and kind of check it out. No, he's just pretending and typing into the document because I see it on editing on this side.
I would never do that, Joe.
I love it. Very good. Yes, so you can expand it so you can read it without having to try to scroll on the dang thing.
Yep.
And yell at us on SMUG if you want it to be sticky.
So we also had some bugs that got addressed. A big one was the Google Map Street View wasn't auto-populating. And so on the account page, that little
yes, I remember
that image of the house, like from the street view.
Right.
If the address itself was placed in certain spots, it wasn't populating like it should.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a pretty major one. Everyone is going to see what the house looked like and things like that. It's a really great feature.
Right.
And so now
it does take a guess, right? We're hoping that the camera's spun around the right way.
Right. Exactly.
But for the most part, yeah, it gets it pretty close.
Yep. We also had that visual bug that's been talked about on SMUG quite a bit. So our SMUG users are going to be happy to see this. That if you were scheduling a certain time period, visually it was cutting off the last little bit. Like if you schedule an 8-hour job, it would only show it on the schedule for 7.5, even though everywhere else it was indicating that it was the full job. So that was a major one.
I'm glad no one listens to these shows right now. That's a feature that's like visual cue that's a half an hour off at certain time periods is kind of a big deal. So
it got some pretty major push in SMUG, and like we definitely made sure we got that fixed and addressed quickly.
Right. Of course, this will be the show that's got 5,000 listens.
If we get 5,000 listens, I think it's worth addressing that because
well, it's done now, right?
Yeah,
it's gone.
Done.
Squished.
It's squished. And I think the other thing that was related to Google was occasionally the route line wouldn't populate. It would have the flags on the map view,
right?
And it wouldn't populate that like third or fourth route line to separate them all out. And so Matt went in there and addressed that issue, and so that's also resolved.
Very good.
So a lot of stuff tied to Google in this one.
And keep in mind too, guys, that a lot of these bugs aren't like always happens every time. In the testing environment, they seem to be fine. Then they get out in the wild, and then 10% of the population experiences some weirdness.
Yep.
Right. So there's always that.
Most importantly, though, I'm going to hand this off to you because I know you're excited for it. Solve the server hang-up issue.
Yeah. And we talked about it last week. And at that point, we knew the symptoms, not the culprit. David found the culprit, and it was ServiceMonster's code base itself. So hoorah, we're able to take care of it, not have to chase somebody down off the API. Just killed it. And then it took a little bit for the JavaScript files to update across all clients, but we've had no issues since. And David still is working on the server upgrades, which he's gotten farther on. So I think his clones are about done. And then the IIS upgrade that'll roll out as a result of that. He also tidied up a handful of queries on the home screen. I think they were built to get it done. And we built specific queries for the data we're pulling for the home screen now. So should be much more snappy in that regard.
Very cool.
Yeah.
As always, guys, you can see the full list of features and bugs that were addressed on our blog. All the release notes are on there. This week in SMUG, there was really a lot of just feature request stuff, and then a couple of those bugs that some were addressed, some weren't. Paul was talking about a week view, like we have our day view. If some of our users aren't aware, you can toggle on a kind of revenue tracker, whether it's route-based or like the total day-based.
Right.
He just kind of requested that week-based. So I thought it'd be nice to, it's a solid request.
It's an easy request to do too, right? We've got the column for it. So, and just to clarify, so on your schedule, you've got a route, and then those routes have jobs. So it totals up all the jobs that are on the route. And then at the top of your schedule, where that little route guy is, it has the total for that day. So totaling that whole up for the week on that schedule without having to run a report was the request.
Yep. And
again, I think we have the room, and this certainly makes sense. So
yeah, that's a feature that since it's been implemented, get a lot of positive feedback on it.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
So the next one was kind of a funny one with the checkmate GIF of yours, but Paul had mentioned talking about the invoice page and how the link on the text object, the HTML, was coming up a little funky. It spits
out at HTML and then the text, and the link, and the link is clickable. So my comment was just remove the HTML, and then his response back to me was kind of like, "This was generated from ServiceMonster. It was from the template's blank. I just put the link in." So checkmate, Paul, you win.
Yep.
And so I assigned a tracker, and they're going to work on the SMS templates that just spit out the clickable link.
The nice thing about it, too, was it generated a lot of commentary about the feature itself. And it's
on how they're using it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So they're asking for payment up front. Ba-bing.
Yep. And so if you guys aren't aware, if you integrate with Authorize.net or with Stripe through our marketplace, which we just
cleaned up,
then you can send this payment link, and they can actually pay that online and things like that. You don't have to necessarily hound them for those payments.
Yeah, and it's working great. It's well done.
So speaking of this, I just kind of wanted to do a shout out. I always love seeing this on SMUG. David had asked about, hey, how can I take credit cards in the field?
Right.
And one of our users, without any of us having to hop into, Pete, just going to shout out to him, he showed him an image and everything about how the process works. And I always just love seeing that collaboration.
Checks in the mail, Pete.
Yep.
Support, right?
Yep.
This is great. No, this is awesome. And then, it looked like David was able to set it up. And then we had a question. It was very similar vein a couple of days ago. Someone hit me up directly, and I didn't have time to get to it. In 10 minutes, he figured it all out, was all connected, had the online payment form working, had online. I mean, it was, a little trepidation at first, like, oh, how am I going to set this up? And then, once you connect those two pieces, if you're using Authorize, it can be a little bit, you got to go deal with your merchant. Right. And we should have a whole podcast talking about credit cards. We really should. So, but ideally, once you get those pieces hooked up, you're good to go. And it's very clean. And then everything just turns on in ServiceMonster. So it's nice.
Yeah. So speaking of Pete, he also was on the other end, and he had that request that we talked about. And I know you're excited for the end of this.
Well, Well, what I'm really excited about is that it looked like he's using the activities panel, which I haven't gotten a lot of feedback on. I would like more feedback on the activities panel, please. But Pete looks like he's using it and he enjoys it. There's the button and it dials a phone, right? Because you can hook it up to your PBX. It's a standard bit of code. And he's asking for it simply on the account page. Yep. And so something that we'll certainly look at to add a button or a link somewhere near all of that address mess because we track so much around phone number.
Yeah.
Because we track so much around the phone number. It's crazy. But yes, Pete, I think that's a great idea. And thank you for using that activities panel.
For those of you who aren't aware, the activities panel he's talking about, if you go into your activities list, whether you're coming from the deck, the activity, the account section, the lead section, it's in all of those areas. There is a toggle between the list view, which just shows you all of your activities you can filter out, or this new panel view, which Ethan worked very hard on, still being updated. And you have the ability to go through that kind of like a call list and just complete your tasks right there on the spot.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
all right. So thanks as always to our SMUG users for your collaboration. We always enjoy seeing those positive comments in there. And now, as Joe mentioned, we have kind of a special guest here with Michael. So I'm going to step aside, let him in. Joe, if you want to kind of maybe introduce him a little bit further, and then enjoy the rest of the show.
Very good. Thanks, Adam. So Michael is our marketing coordinator. And kind of in the stack of ServiceMonster, you have marketing strategy, marketing and content creation, kind of the art and the creative, and then distribution. And if we're doing our jobs right, at the end of those three big steps and management pieces, outcome leads, which then result in sales, which is the whole damn point.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
as much good faith as we bring to the industry, as much works as, ServiceMonster has done directly or I've even done personally, of course, the end of the day is about making sure we're exposed to as many people as possible who could make their decision whether or not ServiceMonster is right for their business.
Yep.
Notice I didn't say sell the shit out of them, right?
Yep.
It's about attention, and it's about making sure that the people who have a problem that we can solve are knowledgeable of us. What they do with it after that's kind of on them, but at least that's the job here, right? So I wanted to bring Michael on. We're going to talk about a handful of things about some of the stuff that we do here at ServiceMonster and some of the stuff that we've learned by helping other service providers and watching what works for them and what doesn't. So, Michael, why don't you first, how did you come to be at ServiceMonster? Give us that story a little bit.
Well, I graduated from college, moved back to Bellingham, and saw this job and came in and then applied and now I'm here. I mean, it's pretty standard,
Right.
But
in college, you had a focus on
strategic communication with the focus on advertising. Advertising and public relations were kind of the two tracks within that degree, and I chose advertising. Marketing as a whole, I took many classes in that as well, but the specific focus was on the advertising piece. But it's been really cool because I learned a lot in college, but I've learned also quite a lot working, actually doing this stuff. So gave me a great starting point, a great foundation that I was able to build upon. And now working here, I've been able to put a lot of what I learned into action and, a lot of experimentation, trying things out, I think that's something that that we've talked about a lot is just like, hey, try it. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, then we don't do it again. We won't know if a marketing strategy or if a content type or a distribution strategy works unless we try it. So we got to just see what works and then hone in on those things that give us the best results.
That end too, though, people, especially single owner operators, can hear us say, try it.
Yeah.
And they go, but yeah, Joe, it costs money. And there's a lot of talk about how much money you should spend in marketing. Some guys wear I don't spend anything on marketing as a badge of honor.
Yeah.
That's why you're self-employed. And if you're happy with that, cool, awesome, high five, mazel tov, cool. But if you want to grow and you want to build a business, then you have got to take some of your revenue and dump it back into marketing. Now, there's debate on the percentage. And so I'm a big fan of it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to maintain and grow a little bit comfortably, 10 to 12% is a good target. You'll find it hard to get there sometimes, but I think, and this is out of gross revenue. So let's say you made $100,000 that year, like you should have spent $12,000 on marketing. Now, if you're trying to grow and you're trying to do more with less, then you can do some guerrilla marketing that would make that $12,000 go a long freaking way.
Yep.
And it's about getting attention and then getting those jobs. But at a certain point, guerrilla marketing isn't going to help you build a sustainable and successful brand.
Yeah. A lot of that stuff takes a lot of time. So it's kind of the debate for a lot of single owner operators between how much time I'm willing to spend or how much am I willing to spend in actual money on marketing.
Right.
You can automate stuff or you can do it yourself.
Or you can hire it out.
Or you can hire it
find
out, yeah.
a brilliant Michael, and
Yeah.
they can get their own version.
Exactly. Then that makes it easier for everyone.
Which is kind of why I'm bringing up your kind of journey, right? Now, you did some jobs for public sector before you came on the ServiceMonsters, part-time, like for your schooling and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
And what is your experience with those environments compared to something like ServiceMonster and how we approach marketing?
So and other marketing related jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one was for a newspaper, so that's very different. Very strict kind of guidelines surrounding any sort of marketing or content distribution. Very, very not very creative, I guess, in a way. Not that's a bad thing. It fit for the media.
Did it? But did it?
Well, I mean, in my opinion, there was a lot of things that could have been improved and a lot more creative freedom that should have been
especially
enabled.
to attract the audience that's paying attention to these
Exactly.
media.
So, I was in college. I did my job. I brought up, ideas, and some of them ended up happening, and other things kind of just got like, oh yeah, okay. But that was more the job environment, I think.
Sure.
But in general, otherwise, I briefly did some work with a private app developer, just helping them with branding, kind of image. They were very talented developers, but with very little design experience or any sort of branding experience. I kind of helped them design like what the app actually looked like, and because they had the functionality there, but it was like really basic,
Needed some
and
love, yeah.
it didn't look presentable, but the functionality was there. So it was more just like design stuff like that, which is really fun for me. I really enjoy that creative side of kind of the brand identity, and which is one thing with ServiceMonster here that I've been trying with designing the new website and stuff of really establishing a consistent brand identity, which I think has improved quite a lot over the past year. And there's still always work to do on that, but I think that's a good thing. We're always improving. We're always trying to hone in even more on what we do and how we can better serve our clients and how we can communicate that to them through marketing.
So I think for the people listening in,
Yeah.
trying to get value out of this conversation, I think the first bit is if you've got a little bit to spend and you can bring in a part-time college kid, do that.
Yep.
If this language that we haven't even gotten really started yet, but if the language that we're talking about now or what we're going to be talking about as we move into practical application, if that's foreign to you, get some help.
Yeah.
If you want to grow. Again, it's always predicated around that.
Yeah.
If you want to go,
Yeah.
If you want to grow. So, well, thank you for sharing that with us. I think you replaced Megan, and before that was Noel. Before that was Marie. And so we've been.
And before that was you.
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
And it's taking on a handful of roles, right? I had to get more creative in some environments and less in others, or don't have time to create stuff. But now we have this train with you and Mark and Justin, because you don't only do coordination, right? You manage the site, you manage not just the distribution, but sometimes you're heavily involved in the creation or editing, right? Now these guys can help you with so much more than you're able to really fully understand until you get in it. Once you kind of get your skin in the game and you're in it and you're doing it every day, I think the light bulb will come on, especially if someone to talk with and bounce ideas off of. But and that, not to be unsympathetic to people who aren't as creative, right? Because I come in every day and I'm like, hey, let's try this thing, right? So our content train is forever. And then you guys throw down and it's a big pile on. So it's great.
Yeah.
But let's talk to them practically about some of the things, like what's hot right now. If you wanted to just say, okay, blah, 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 get me leads.
Well, Instagram is kind of the big thing right now. Depends on the industry as well. I've noticed, I've talked to, at this point, probably at least like 100 different or a couple hundred different service providers, from carpet cleaning, pressure washing, window cleaning, a few like landscaping random ones, mostly carpet cleaning and pressure washing though. And a lot of them especially the pressure washing, window cleaning, are focusing on kind of the newer generation of business owners that they can service. So for like commercial jobs and homeowners, millennials now are like, I'm at the very bottom end of the millennial spectrum. And so many new homeowners and business owners are now millennials, and millennials are so heavily on Instagram. So as a service business owner trying to reach a new audience, trying to get your brand name out there, get new leads, Instagram can be a great tool. There's a lot of practical things you can do for free on there. They just take your time. So there's cost associated there, I guess. But
Right.
but there's a lot of things you can do.
You either got time or you got money.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to say earlier. Kind of is like, yeah, it's either it's kind of one or the other. There's still a cost associated with both, but
Right.
there's a lot you can do that's very hands-on, very very outward driven. You engaging with people and really getting your name out there, and you can also run ads on Instagram. We've had really good success with doing Instagram specific ads. One thing that you've talked about a lot in the past and that we've done a lot of content around is Facebook advertising. Facebook and Instagram, if people don't know, or Instagram owns Facebook, same company. And most Facebook ads also will run on Instagram if you have an associated Instagram account, or even if you don't, you can still run them. But doing Instagram specific ads allow you to kind of really hone in the content and the action that you want taken off of that ad. You can really hone it into a very specific kind of funnel on Instagram.
I want to bite on this point for a second.
Okay.
Because I think it's really, really important that you guys understand that creating content specific and unique to the platform is really, really important.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's important, and it took us a while to learn this, but the reason why it's important is because if you're generating content correctly, whether it's an ad, whether it's a entertainment or persuasion or education or all the four devices, regardless, you're trying to bring them value, which means it's got to be about them, not you.
Exactly.
Which means your copy needs to talk about their problems that you're solving. And this is so big. It's about them, not you. It's so big that it should transcend how you deliver that content. We did this for a while. We try to create like a little sting out of the ask, right? The show that we did for a couple of years, and try to entice people from Facebook to go to YouTube. And we got 4 times the amount of views when we were like, screw it. We shouldn't care about collecting views at one place because that's about us, not them, and publish the whole show on Facebook. We got 4 times the amount of views. And so Instagram, understanding Instagram, that 60-second format is important. And it took us a minute to figure that out too. We were doing 2 or 3 pane videos, which you can totally do. But when you do that, you can't see the view count, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, I don't understand that. But.
Yeah, I know it's Instagram. I'm sure they'll have it someday, or the view on each video.
Yeah, well,
right?
I would assume that view on each video, but it doesn't seem that hard, but whatever.
So we're bummed when we don't get numbers, can you tell?
Yeah.
So, but when we did the 60-second, our viewership went up because it's about that time commitment. On Instagram, you're saying, look, I only need a minute of your time or less. Right. So I give you a beautiful image. I try to invoke emotional response, or I've got a less than 60-second message. But that's the social contract on Instagram. And so if you could adhere to that by developing content specific for it and not trying to use that as a mechanism to then draw to your page or draw to some other thing, you're going to get much better overall engagement.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, practically for service businesses, if any listeners use Instagram, they'll know you scroll through it. It's just kind of an endless stream of content. So because of that, you need something that really stands out, something that would, especially for an ad, when you're trying to get new leads to come in. I mean, it's got to be something that grabs people's attention, gets them to stop scrolling, and gets them to take an action. And that's not easy to do by any means. But I see so much. I see so many pressure washing videos and carpet cleaning videos, and or photos even, and they have a really nice angle. The quality is really good. They have good lighting in the image or the video, and it even makes me, and I see thousands of these same kind of videos and pictures,
Right.
and sometimes there are still ones that grab my attention, and I'm like, dang, that is quality content right there. Like someone sees that, and I'm like, man, like that grabs my attention. Look at the work that company can do. You know, look how clean that sidewalk is. Look at that line down the middle of how dirty it was and how clean it is, or that carpet, you know.
But
look how nasty
it has
it
a lot
was.
to do with the presentation, though.
Exactly.
I think you really hit on it, because I get this all the time. Well, Joe, how many before and afters can I do? And it reminds me of other creatives. You know, it's like, well, how many can I do? However many they'll let me do.
Yep.
It's if you don't know, if you scroll through 100 photos and you can't pick out the one that is like breathtaking, even out of a carpet cleaning montage, then you don't have the creative eye necessary to approach this in that way. You got to get that artistic eye, right?
Exactly.
Because like what you just said, you're scrolling through these things because we're friends with thousands of different, and you're scrolling through, it's all the same thing, and then whoa.
Yep.
The invocation of emotion just based off the clarity of the picture, the angle. So you could do those as an artistic approach forever.
Oh yeah.
And they'll work.
Yep.
Because it's like a billboard, not like a television commercial, right? You're not showing them the same thing over and over. That's not how they consume this content.
Yeah.
Right.
I just think that's something really practical that if you have the artistic eye for it, take advantage of it. Like do it, because that's free. Posting on Instagram is free. Running an ad, you can spend like $5 a day on an ad, run it for like a week or something. And it's like it's low cost, and you can get really good results out of it. I think there's I've heard a lot of people say that it works great. I've heard some people say it doesn't work great. And it seems like the people who say it doesn't work great don't take the time to really understand their market.
Yeah, they're
advertising
transactional
to.
many times.
It's like, oh, I just want to do this and I expect results. It's like, okay, no, you need to understand in Instagram and Facebook as well. You can target different people. You can target based on any sort of demographic information. You can target based on people's interests. I personally get lots of ads on my personal Instagram for businesses in Bellingham. Lately, I've been getting a bunch for a tree service company that cuts down trees and whatever. And I'm like, hey, and I've seen their ads multiple times. I've seen different ads multiple times. I don't know their name. So
fail.
So they haven't gotten me there yet. They haven't got me there yet. But next time I see it, I'll know like, oh yeah, that's that company.
Well, based off this conversation even. And the fact that we have this conversation.
Exactly. Yeah. So they did something, they stood out, and they're local. And when I first saw them, I was like, oh, interesting. Like I hadn't really seen very many service-oriented businesses like that actually advertising to me on Instagram.
And especially rotating content and being consistent.
Yeah. So I was very impressed by it. And that's the kind of thing they're clearly paying attention to what they're doing. It's all about being intentional with this content. You can throw it out there and get some result, but
it's like EDDM type results.
Exactly.
If all you're running is ads and you just have a couple and you're just spamming the ads and you're trying to throw dollars behind that and make that work. Why aren't my ads working?
Yeah.
I see that a lot on the bulletin boards. It's because it's all you're doing is ads. You're not bringing anything of value, and most likely you're only talking about you.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Using the customer testimonial videos are great, or quotes. I see a lot of those, and those can be a little, if you've done too often, I guess, they can seem a little redundant. But those can be really good supplemental content because you're getting, someone who your intended, or the market that you're trying to advertise to, someone that they can maybe relate to. That can be really effective as well, using those kinds of things, kind of telling their story and what you did for them, but you don't necessarily want it to be like, oh, this company is so great, I love them, they are so great.
Right.
This company, so great, kind of thing, like where it just is about you and how great you are. You want to get testimonials that are more about the problem they had and how it was solved, and and this company is great at the end, kind of thing.
Right.
It's about the customer story through through the service that you offered.
And there's a good book plug here for the Storybrand.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too. So perfect.
Yeah. So and I make all the marketing and salespeople read it because it really is about getting that viewpoint, that it's about the customer's journey, where the advisors. We're the solution providers.
We're
We're
the
the
guide.
guides.
Yeah. And it's
We're
really
not
easy
the
to-
hero. It's not our story. It's theirs.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really important. And we've done a lot
Mhm.
over the last year and a half to kind of make sure everything we do looks through that lens. We're pretty good intuitively, but man, you can always get better. in the
Exactly.
website redesigns to
Yeah.
really emphasize that
Yeah.
point.
That's I'm redesigning the website again, kind of to even
Sure.
focus more. I'm rereading sections of Storybrand and doing more Storybrand based research online to look at what other sites are doing that are like considered
Top-notch.
top notch story branded
And
websites.
then at the end of that book is a script that
Yeah.
you can use to drive testimonials in
Yeah.
a story brand methodology
Yeah.
to ask the questions that invoke those pieces. And it's great. It works great. We
Yeah,
use
it's
it.
simple.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do it like what was the problem you were having before you used our service?
Yeah.
You know, that's like the best kind of intro one. Like, what was the problem? Okay. What about us stood out from the competitors? You know, a lot of people that service businesses are doing jobs for. A lot of them have had multiple companies work for them, or they've had exposure to multiple companies. If you're in a competitive area, they might be seeing a lot of different ads from different companies. And so finding out from them also what works, why they picked you over the competitors.
That's right.
I mean, that's
Gold.
super important information. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like the best information you can get from your customer is directly why they picked you.
And then if you can communicate that, now we're back to getting that 60-second video
Yeah.
that you can put on Instagram.
Yeah.
So you can create a level of content no matter what you do.
Yeah.
I think people also look at their lives as, I don't want to say in general people are narrow. Business owners have to be more introspective than your average bear, but I even find, there's a certain point at which you're kind of blind until you hit this switch, right?
Yeah.
And so if you look at kind of your world through that prism and the things that are uninteresting to you are just like, well, why would I even talk about that? Why would I even mention that? I crossed that thing. If you're let's say a window cleaner does commercial work and you're 10 stories in the air and you just do that every day, you think, no big deal, but man, the shots that you could get from that, that you could then feature on Instagram and give a perspective that somebody who doesn't climb up 10 stories doesn't get ever.
Seriously.
Yeah.
That's so funny you said that because actually earlier today I saw a window cleaner. I think it was up in Vancouver, so just a little bit north of us. And they took a selfie, a window cleaner, and they were a lot more than 10 stories up. They were like, I don't know how many stories up, but it was really, really far up. And they took a really cool selfie. It was a quality photo, great angle, cool lighting. And they were like kind of leaned back. So you could see the side of the building, but also the ground way down there. And it grabbed my attention.
That's right.
'Cause I don't
5
see
seconds
too
before
many of
George dropped his phone.
Yeah, exactly. It was actually a woman. So in this one,
Georgina.
yeah, exactly. Which was also interesting. I was like, man, that's really interesting. That's a visually engaging photo.
Yes.
Seeing someone up there with full harness, like all this gear strapped on, and it's like it works.
It really
grabbed
does.
my attention, and I'm probably gonna be less grabbed by things because I just see so much of this type of content.
Now, when we're pushing content to Instagram, hashtags are really important, right? And so maybe some tips and advice on hashtagging and how many do you do? Is it with the post? Can you make it on a comment?
Yeah.
What are the rules around that?
I mean, there are no rules. What I've done is I just do a separate comment with a whole list of hashtags relating to industries that we target, and then some general, a few more little specific things, some more broad ones related to our area. And with that, some people do them further down in the original post. I mean, on Instagram, it doesn't really matter how you do it. I just do it in a separate comment. It's just consistency wise. That's what I do.
If we do it in a
think looks
comment
better.
4 days later, do we have the same
No.
indexing algorithm? So
No.
what's the time that
Immediately afterwards.
so you need to have
Yes.
your hashtags ready to go
Yep.
before you make your post,
Yeah.
even if you're right.
I mean, what I do, and because I do this every day, is I have a note on the desktop of my computer, and I just have all the hashtags there. I just copy and paste it into a comment on Instagram on the computer. Obviously, posting to Instagram you can only do from mobile device, not from a computer. But on a computer, you can comment and still see everything. So I just do that because it takes like 5 seconds, just copy, paste.
But if
comment,
you're out in the
boom.
field, then you don't have that option.
Well, in that case, what I would do, and I've done this before too, is you just have it like in the notes on your phone. You could have it and you can copy and paste it there. It's just on a phone, it takes a few seconds more.
Yeah.
But still, that's the practical thing to do, is just have the hashtags already ready to go. You can experiment with different hashtags too. I think for service businesses, and you're trying to target a specific location, then use as many as you can. Like we don't do this, but because it wouldn't make sense for us.
Dogs of Seattle.
Yeah, Dogs of Seattle. Like things that don't even relate to your service even.
Well, you could make it relate to Dogs of Seattle, right?
Well, yeah, you
Cleaning
could.
up pet stain.
Exactly.
Right.
But just like any post, it's like you want people in your area to see your posts.
But you want them to be semi-relevant to the hashtag too.
Yeah, to some degree. I mean, if it's an ad, I mean, then it doesn't really matter.
Right.
Anyone will see it anywhere.
Right.
You just want them to see it, really, someone in your area.
All right. So I've got really good before and afters. I've got interesting pictures with interesting angles.
Yeah.
I'm using hashtags. I'm doing the occasional maybe selfie video explaining something cool that the audience might want to see. And I'm getting testimonial videos. So now I've got some content going on Instagram.
Yeah.
And no one's going to follow me. All right. So how do I get and seek? How can I be proactive about getting engagement?
Well, again, I think that depends on how much time you're willing to spend. Through ads and through the regular posting on your area, you might be able to pick up a few followers, kind of consistently get a few. Ads that drive people to your profile can be really good for getting followers. But if you really want to do it right, you're going to have to engage with people yourself.
Going to have to be part of the community.
Yeah, it's that, and that's what takes a lot of time. But I mean, I see a lot of single owner operators even who are doing this in between jobs or on the lunch break. They'll just go on Instagram for like 30 minutes, and they'll go through some hashtags in their area or whatever, or if they're engaging with other businesses, then they would do in business or industry specific hashtags. And they're just going through and they're engaging, they're leaving comments, they're liking stuff, they're asking questions, they're direct messaging people. There's a lot you can do with that in terms of that very personalized, intentional engagement. And again, that goes back to being intentional with what you're doing. You're not just
and it being about them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You don't want to leave a comment on someone's profile like, "Hey, check out my profile for awesome pressure washing videos."
We get those bots all the time, right?
And it sounds
awesome post,
sounds spammy, and it's like no one wants that. No one wants to see that. They don't want that on their posts. So it's all about a compliment or leaving some sort of value, just engaging in a respectful way to their post. You're not trying to use it as an ad. You're just trying to reach out to them and make that connection. We do a lot of that, and it works great.
Yep.
It does take time, which I know for a lot of service businesses can be an issue. But like you were saying earlier, if you have someone who you can hire part-time to do stuff like that even, or to supplement what you're doing during your breaks between jobs or in the morning or evening for a few minutes, I mean, you can gain a lot of ground in your area just using specific hashtags to your area, posting Instagram stories with a hashtag in it, and then that post will show up on a hashtag specific story that people in your area can follow. That one is a little more confusing to explain, but I'm going to do a blog post about that.
Sure.
Relatively soon.
Look
kind of an
for that.
update to Instagram kind of ideas that people can take and use with their service business.
Yeah.
But overall, it's those things really give you a lot of traction when
All
it
right.
comes
So now
to
I've got a
reaching
little bit
out.
of engagement. I'm gaining a couple hundred followers. Maybe I'm doing it well and I get 1,500. Right.
Yep.
Keep your expectations correct. How do I turn that into cash?
Well, I mean, you want to make the customer journey from seeing your profile to filling out a web form.
Oh, a
or
web
something.
form. I'm so
web
glad you
form.
said that.
Yeah.
Go back and listen to the first podcast where we talk about lead capture.
Yeah.
And we spent, 30 minutes on the 3 different ways you can do lead capture direct into ServiceMonster.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's about engaging with them to the point where they get curious enough about you to take the journey on their own, and or they enjoy your content and they'll pay attention to the ad and go, "Oh shit, I got that problem they can solve."
Yeah.
Very
And you want to make
cool.
it easy. That's what I was going with that. You want to make it easy
Super
for them
easy.
to contact you. You know, Instagram, you can have call, email, website, like buttons that are on your profile that take people directly. You press call, says like pop up
Boom.
phone number, call, boom, email, same thing. Opens up an email
Yeah.
already ready to go. You can have buttons like book now buttons in ads and on your profile that would take you to like your website with a web form in it or something. However you want to use it. Facebook can do some of those for you even. It's just about, you know, getting them to that point, engaging with them to the point where they see the value that you offer, and then it's easy for them to get in contact with you.
Right.
I see so many profiles where there's no contact information, and it's like you gotta have contact information on there.
And I think, and we'll need to
Make
be
it
wrapping
easy.
this up.
Yeah,
we'll certainly do more podcasts, and we'll be specific with Facebook. We can talk about direct mail marketing.
Yep.
We can talk about door hangers. We can talk about a lot of stuff. So we'll have Michael back quite a bit, I'm sure. But wrapping this up, I think the reason why I want to talk about Instagram today was there's so much blue ocean.
Yeah.
Like we hustle on every platform, and the opportunity versus presence, the ratio there is so far off on Instagram.
Yeah.
Your guys'
totally.
presence is almost non-existent, you know, and we're doing pretty good at collecting the people that are there, but it's just apparent to us that it's an underutilized platform.
Yeah.
And, you know, you got to go own it before someone else does, and ownership will be by territory.
Yeah.
So we encourage you to go and, you know, make regular posts and do some of those things. And I would say that Instagram is an easier one to tackle even over Facebook.
Oh yeah, totally.
But you got to
Way
understand that pay attention to those demographics, because you'll be surprised by the 25 to 35-year-old. Like that's the bulk of who's going to be watching. So
Yeah, a lot. Yeah. That's the big
Michael, anything
big
else?
range.
Any other words of wisdom you want to impart upon them?
Not this time. No. Well, I mean, like you said, I'll probably be back. We can go in and really in deep on some stuff. I'll put a couple links in the video description too, for social media tips, blog posts about Instagram. Yeah, that'll be some good value stuff for anyone who's listening and
put
wants
the
to know
link
more.
to the social media mastery
That's
course
one
there.
of
If
the
you
most
guys aren't
important.
familiar with that, there's like 6 or 7 blog posts of a report I did for our board of directors, which then was taken by marketing, and it was like Megan struck gold. She was very happy to have that. Then tore it all apart. I wrote an intro to it. And it's really kind of 2 years ago where our social strategy kind of came from.
Yeah.
But it's still highly relevant and kind of breaks things down. And then we have 6 or 7 videos from the Ask that were specific on social media. So lots of great content all at one place.
Yeah. And it's all free.
It's all free. And
great.
the stuff that we're doing here today, Instagram, and we'll certainly have you back again. So thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
Awesome.
It's awesome to be here. So
All right, guys, we'll wrap up today, but join us Fridays, 3 o'clock Pacific time for the ServiceMonster live stream on Facebook. And we're going to be publishing these on Tuesday on all of your podcast listening platforms. Right, Michael?
Yep.
Doing distribution of the podcast. And then look for the video on Wednesday. All right, guys, be safe. Have a good one.